Hi, everyone. I'm Ray Richmond, the news and features editor here at Gold Derby, and I'm here with Djouliet Amara, the actress who stars as Trina in the new Apple TV Plus comedy sci-fi mystery series, The Big Door Prize, that premiered March 29th on the streamer. Juliet, before we get to Big Door Prize, I wanted to discuss some of your fascinating upbringing first. You were raised on a prairie in Canada in an apartment without any furniture. What? Huh?
Yeah, well, when I first moved to Canada, my parents moved from Russia and Sierra Leone as refugees. So when we first came, my parents were very young. I was very, very little, and we didn't have our life really started. We escaped this country, this racist experience, which was our experience, and then came to Canada and started out with really nothing and grew from there. So yeah, I mean, there was at first no furniture, and I slept like on a mattress on the floor with my parents when I was really little, and I have memories of that. And but everything was fun and everything was playful, and we grew up together.
And that's the thing when you're a kid, it's not hard, heavy. It's
Mm.
just you've got that's just the normal that you know. So I would imagine it's all about how your parents react to it.
Mhm. Mhm. And they were amazing, and we have all grown so much since being kids. Literally. They were like 20.
So I was told, yeah, everything was on the floor, alarm clock, uh, meals, everything. You sort of just it was on the
Well,
floor.
we did eat food on a kitchen table. I remember the kitchen table that we had. I remember this green table and these green chairs. But yeah, I remember like this little TV on the floor, toys on the floor. And I remember my first bed that I got that was my own bed, being this like tiny toddler-sized white princess bed, and feeling like, wow, that's like all I ever needed. Um, yeah.
Well, that's the thing is, yeah, we have very modest goals when we're kids.
Mhm.
I used to think some really bizarre stuff. I used to think as soon as you stopped growing, you never bought clothes again. Because why would you? Because why would you need to?
Right, and then here we are buying more clothes,
You're not
like
going to outgrow them. So um, anyway, I see your first love was dancing and probably still is dancing. Talk about being a professional dancer with Alvin Ailey Dance Theater and
Yeah,
and how you got to New York from Winnipeg.
yeah, my my first love was dancing. When my family and I, um, moved to our first house, which is a little bungalow, which is still the house that my family lives in. There was a dance studio nearby, and my mom and dad could afford to put me in one class a week in ballet. Um, and the woman who owned the dance studio was like very sweet and very caring, and saw talent in me and let me dance at her studio all throughout the week as long as I could compete for her studio. And so I grew up to develop this huge, huge love of dance. It felt like my saving grace. It felt like whenever I was stressed, I'd be able to like let up my emotions and move, and then it ultimately led me to like winning a dance scholarship to go to Paris to train for a summer. And then when I was there, I decided, you know what, I can't like drop my dream. I have to try and go to New York and dance. And I remember this woman from an actually a competitive dance studio, like a studio that was one of our competitors, coming up to me after I did one of my dance solos one year in competition and saying, you have to try to get into Alvin Ailey. You'd be perfect there. And that's how I heard of it. And then that's what I tried to do. And like I left my dreams of being like a surgeon behind, because I thought that that's what I was going to do.
A surgeon, really?
Yeah, I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to deliver babies.
So
Yeah.
like an OBGYN.
Yes, exactly.
Uh, do you still want to do that after your acting career is over, maybe?
Nope.
No, you're done
No,
with that.
I'm done with that. I don't really feel like going back to school. I yeah.
But now it looks like you only started acting maybe 3 years ago,
Yeah, 3 years.
but you started getting cast in projects immediately. like the shows Riverdale and Superman and Lois, and then in The Porter.
Mhm.
As soon as you started, you just had success immediately. That's pretty amazing.
It was, yeah, it was really amazing. It was really kismet. I felt like I did the right things at the right time. I followed what my heart was telling me to do and to try, and the universe kind of rewarded me. Most of the work that I've done during the pandemic, which has felt like such a blessing. I realized like the position that I was in, and yeah, I really just I have to thank the universe, you know. There was no
Well, you got
nothing.
to have talent too. Even if the universe is on your side, you got to be good.
Thank you. Yeah.
What was the biggest challenge in moving from dance to acting for you?
Probably finding, I guess getting used to the cameras rather than like the stage. But it was pretty quick. I felt pretty comfortable with it. And then I think the move from dance to acting is really just about finding your voice. I'm used to telling stories through using my body. And it was kind of just a shift to how are you going to say this with your words? And it didn't take too long, I don't think.
I've
Yeah.
heard you quoted, though, in other sources saying that there was a little bit of imposter syndrome that you had to overcome.
Yeah. I mean, like with the life that I've had, it sometimes like the things that happen to me seem like they don't make sense, but now I'm learning that it's just my purpose and not to question it. And I think that's what's gotten me over my imposter syndrome a little bit, but I struggled with that up until even very recently, until someone told me nothing was accidental that happened to you. This is your purpose. Um, and now I believe that, but yeah, I mean, it's weird. This whole industry is kind of strange. Like it's strange to think I just get to play pretend all day. I say that a lot, but that's really what it feels like, playing house.
It's pretty great. But you know, we're all wherever we are, we deserve to be where we are. I mean, that's what certainly what I've found in my life.
Yeah.
Did you have any training for acting?
Not really, no. I took this really fun improv class in high school. I tried to take it to get easy A because I wanted my GPA to be high for med school. And I know. But my teacher was, I don't know if I'd say that she was a hard ass. And she gave me like a B plus. And I remember thinking, how would you give me a B plus if I got like an A in physics? To my brain, I was like, it didn't make sense. So I was like, what can I do to improve this grade? Because this is actually the lowest grade I have. And she said, you need to just like let go. Let go. Don't be afraid of what you look like or what it seems like when you're trying to be funny. And the rest of the year, I just allowed myself to be a total goofball. Um, I didn't care like what I looked like, what it would be like if I didn't get any laughs. And I think that was probably actually the best training that I ever had that could lead up to acting, just like a high school improv class.
Sometimes that's all it takes. Wow. Um, okay, so let's talk about Trina and the Big Door Prize. Uh, Looks like it's an awful lot of fun to work in, and you're still working in it because you got renewed. Congratulations.
Thank
Uh,
you.
for those unfamiliar with the show, it's about a small town where everyone's life gets disrupted after this mysterious arrival of this photo
Mhm.
booth-like machine that promises to reveal the user's life potential.
Yeah.
Sounds all very, very high end and interesting. And um, talk about what it was like to play Trina and
It was amazing.
who you are in the show specifically.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm in love with Trina. I protect her with all my heart. She's this really sarcastic, incredible, bright teen who has a lot of potential. But you meet her at this point in her life where she's gone through a horrific tragedy, the death of her boyfriend. Um, and so she's going through her grieving and her mourning process, trying to figure it out, all the while having two parents that are played by Gabrielle Dennis and Chris O'Dowd. And they're going through their midlife crises, and she's kind of going through her like quarter life crisis, or something even less than that. And she is finding relief and joy through another one of her relationships, friendships that she's having. But I love that girl. I love the way she's written. I love the comedy. I love the sarcasm, the dark comedy aspect of her. She's a really, really meaty, broody teen. She's so fun to play. She's my favorite character that I've ever played.
So interesting, used to be comedy, used to be set up, set up punchline, set up punchline.
Mhm.
The things we look at as comedy now are much different than, what it was even 15, 20, 30 years ago.
Mhm.
That something can be very dark and ironic and still be labeled as comedy. And it's comedy, but there's a lot of pain behind it too.
Yeah, and but I think that's what that had so from my life, that's kind of also what I brought into the show. Like, you're so right. The irony of life in itself is so, so funny. And I think that a lot of people try to find comfort in things that are bad. How can I make this into a joke? Because how is this happening to me? This is ridiculous. How did I become an actor? Like, what the heck? And then I came here from like, there was so much that happened to me in my life that I could bring into Trina. And I have always found the most hilarious things to be the things that are the most honest and true. And that's what I learned from my improv teacher, Miss Skeen. Um, Life is funny itself. And that's what's so beautiful about our show is it feels like there's so much absurdity, but there's so much grounded reality and truth. And I think that's what Trina brings in to the ensemble. You
And
know?
that's the glass half full perspective that life is funny rather than tragic,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
It's tragic and it's funny at the same thing. And those things can exist
Mm.
at the same time and are the same thing, I think.
What kind of feedback have you received to your performance on the show? I've seen some really positive reviews. I saw one critic called you a real revelation.
Oh, I was really happy to read that. That made me very happy. Yeah, I've been receiving really great feedback. It's been really wonderful so far. I think for someone to call me a revelation, that's very, very sweet. And I've been seeing a lot of great feedback talking about like the honesty to which Trina is played and um how, these teens aren't necessarily written for like a more these teens are written in this world, in this grounded world, rather than like some of the other teens I've maybe played. I much prefer this world that we're existing in on the show, and that's a really it's all been very, very sweet, very, very, very sweet, and I've received some really kind messages and kind reviews from critics, which has made me so excited.
It also helps that you have such a young face and way about you because
Thank you.
I'm guessing you're not really a teenager anymore in reality. Um,
No,
uh, and but you can still play that. You look like you could probably play teens until you're in your well into your 30s. I'm guessing.
well, I actually I think I'll be able to until I'm well into my 70s. That's the goal. No, I'm just kidding.
That's
Thank
actually a very good. That's actually a very good line. Thank you.
you. It's something Trina would probably say, but no, thank you so much. Yeah, I feel like a lot of it, oddly, I've spoken to this other actress, Lauren Lott, about it. I think a lot of it has to do with my teeth as well. I have very small teeth, like I have little baby teeth, and
Oh, that's true.
I think it just keeps me like 16 forever, which I'm not complaining about.
You still haven't gotten all your permanent teeth in yet?
No, none of them. I'm like, when is this gonna happen?
Wow. Wow. Um, we'll have to get the American Dental Association on this case. They're gonna study you as a case.
Listen, maybe
Um,
if you say something, they'll listen to you because they haven't been listening to me.
how did working in Big Door Prize, Juliet, differ from, say, the challenges of working on the dramedy film Bloody Hell or the Netflix thriller Devil in Ohio? Was it
Uh,
was it a lot different in terms of your prep and everything?
I think I had a very similar prep for Bloody Hell that I did for the Big Door Prize, mostly because my characters had like huge front to back arcs. And I also met the director, Molly McGlynn, on the set of Big Door Prize. So that's how she found me for Bloody Hell. she like came up to me one day and was like, I need to tell you something. And I was kind of scared of her. And then she was like, I'll call you later. Ended up calling me 2 weeks later and saying, I want you to be in my feature film. If you like the script, I'm sending it to you. And that's how that happened. And she's very playful and funny and amazing. And yeah, I think I just really ate up the words and loved the writing. And so it was kind of easy and natural from there, similar to Trina. It felt right.
This isn't the way it usually works, Juliet.
I know.
When you start in acting, you don't just hit the ground running and get this role and this role and this role. It's pretty
Mhm.
great. It's really
Thank
great.
you.
It really speaks to your level of talent, I think.
Thank you. Thank you. And I know, and also like I don't ever talk about this, but I'll share it with you. Like I remember there were years between when I'd come back home and I'd live in New York and I'd come back home and like some of the first things that I did were jobs as extra work just for money, not even thinking I'd ever be an actor. Or there'd be a stand-in job that came up and I'd look like the actress back home during the summer and I needed the money. I needed to work. I was also working at McDonald's. I was working at American Eagle retail and I would go in and I would take those jobs. And so I know what like all the roles are like on set. And I think it's really good to have that experience because I think some people jump even higher quicker than I do without that experience and without that
Yeah.
understanding of what it's like. And I think it's really important to have those experiences because sometimes I think people can get like a little high on their horses, but I'm not one of those people. And I do realize like the gravity of how amazing it is to be where I am. And I think it's important to treat everyone kindly and everyone's role is so, so important. Um, yeah,
Where would you like to see your career headed in terms of the types of roles you'd like to play? Are you more into doing comedy or drama, or does it just depend?
I love it all. I love drama. I love the idea of portraying female hysteria as well. I love horror. I love the extremes, but I also love like the grounded right now. I really love it all. And I think that you can find comedy in everything. I think that's what's so beautiful about everything. I think my strength is probably comedy because I tend to look for the humor in things anyway in scripts, even that are dramatic. But yeah, but a drama would be really fun to do soon, something spooky.
And
Maybe.
we're going to wrap up here in a minute or two, Juliet. How does being a queer actor impact your professional life?
Impact my professional life. What do you mean?
Well, I just mean how does that manifest itself in terms of how you present yourself, or because I know
Mhm.
it's important to you that's known.
Yeah, I think it's affected my professional life because it's given me the opportunity to play a lot of authentic roles and roles in characters that I've had experiences similar to. So it's been really great to be part of like the push for like true and authentic representation and the actors and the characters. And um I think it's made a lot of queer people happy when they've like seen me in a role and then maybe go to my page and can see that I've also had like many queer experiences and do identify as queer. And I remember when I was younger and not out yet as a queer person, I would see these queer characters on screen and hope that the actors were too. Like it makes it a little more real. It makes it feel a little bit more real. But then when I search them up and I'd see that they weren't, I'd be kind of like, oh, that's a bummer. Even if they played it magnificently, it's just kind of that little bit more, that little bit of truth that, especially in the time where I wasn't out yet, I kind of wanted the courage to come out. And when you see someone else who's happy and out, it gives you that little bit more courage. And I think things are a lot better now and more inclusive in general. So I wonder what it's like now for someone who's like 13, 14, 15, but I'd imagine it's great.
That authenticity is important, no
Yeah.
question. You
Mhm.
know, well, I think that's all the time we have. Juliet Amara, thanks so much for visiting with us today.
Of course.
You can see Juliet on the Big Door Prize, currently streaming season one. and season 2 soon enough on
Mhm.
Apple TV Plus. Take care and good luck to you.
Thank you so much. You as well. Have a beautiful day.